Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. This pre-Shabbos video Dvar Torah coming out on Thursday of Thanksgiving is sponsored by Mrs. Irene Lokich and all of the Lokich children in memory of Reverend Meyer Lokich, Zichron Levracha, whose yahrzeit recently just passed less than a week ago. Just a brief of thoughts in honor of Reverend Lokich. The Parshat begins, VaYeitzei Yaakov mi Be'er Sheva, that Yaakov left Be'er Sheva, and Rashi quotes the Medrash that when he left, his absence was felt. Magid sheyatzias tzadik min hamakom osa rosham. When a righteous person leaves a place, the absence is felt. For as long as the tzaddik is present, hu ziva hu hadara, he is the beauty, the splendor of the city. And when he leaves, some of that beauty and splendor is lost. And certainly when Reverend Lokich and Mrs. Lokich were part of the community, they were part of the splendor and beauty of Brookline, and we miss them both. And all those who knew Reverend Lokich remember him with great reverence and love, and we all wish Mrs. Lokich the best. Again, this video is Dvar Torah is coming out on Thanksgiving, and it's quite appropriate that often Thanksgiving coincides with VaYeitzei. It makes for a very easy Dvar Torah, at least the beginning of one, and that is because Chazal saw the greatest model of Thanksgiving, of a person thanking Hashem, to appear in this week's Parsha, and that individual is Leah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan taught in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Miyom Shabara HaKadosh Baruch Hu Es Olamo, from the day that God created his world. Lo Haya Adam Shahoda LaKadosh Baruch Hu Ad Shebasa Leah V'Hodaso. Literally, there was no one who thanked God until Leah thanked him. Now, presumably, this does not mean literally that no one ever thanked God. There seem to be other instances of the Torah, even in the Torah itself, but it means no one thanked Hashem like Leah thanked Hashem. In comparison to what Leah did, no one had ever thanked God. Until when? Shnemar, as the verse says, this is after the birth of her fourth son, Yehuda Hapam Odes Hashem. Now I thank God, implying that she had never done so before. Perhaps no one had ever done so before. And so the question is, if obviously others had already thanked Hashem, what did Rav Yochanan and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai mean? What was so special about how Leah thanked Hashem? And we will propose one suggestion of how to understand what is so special about Leah's thanksgiving and appreciation of the gift of her son and sons and all of her children. So to understand the significance of Yehuda's name and her declaration of Hodah to Hashem, we have to read it in the context of the names of her first three sons. The Torah records, again, Yaakov is married to Leah and her younger sister, Rachel. Vatahar Leah vateled bein, and Leah is the first to become pregnant, and she gives birth to a son. Vatikra Shmo Reuven, and she calls his name Reuven, the first of the tribes. Ki amra, for she said, Ki ra'ah Hashem ba'ani, for God has seen me in my affliction, in my struggling. Ki ata yahavani ishi, for perhaps now my husband will love me. It is quite sad, quite tragic. Leah was the wife less loved, and it hurt deeply. It hurt deeply. She was the woman that Yaakov married, but not the one that he initially chose to marry. And she hoped that by giving birth to Yaakov's firstborn son, that would bring him to love her equal to her sister Rachel. Vatahar od vateled bein, the very next verse. And Leah, presumably at least a year later, has become pregnant again, and again she gives birth to a son. Vatomer, and the tragic sadness only increases, and she says, Ki shama Hashem ki snua anochi, v'yitein li gam esef. For now, Hashem has heard not not just that she is unloved, but literally that she is hated. And even if Yaakov did not hate Leah, but she felt that way. She felt unloved. She felt overlooked. Vayitin li gam hazeh, and so he has given me this son as well. God has heard my cries, Vatikra shmo Shimon, so she calls him Shimon, from hearing, hoping perhaps that this son will arouse love in Yaakov's heart, greater love, or the son at least will provide her with a different outlet of love to heal her heart. Has Leah's wounds been healed? Is her heart whole? The next verse says, Vatahar od, Vateled bain. And she becomes pregnant again, and she gives birth again. Vatomer, and she says, Ata hapa'am yilaveh ishi elai. These were great people, but it is quite sad. Perhaps now, after giving birth to a third son, perhaps now my husband will accompany me. Ki aladati lo shlosha banim, for I have given birth to for him 3 sons. Al king karashmo Levi, and therefore she called him Levi, meaning accompaniment. She was still yearning. She still was waiting for her husband. She still felt unloved. She was, and she would always be, the woman who was loved less than her sister. And she would always bear that. But even after this third son, it doesn't change that. And so the very next verse, verse 4, Vatahar od vateled bain. And she becomes pregnant again. And she gives birth again. Vatomer, and now she says, Hapa'am oda es Hashem. This time, I will thank God. Al ken karashmo Yehuda, and therefore she called him Yehuda. Vata'amod miledet. And at that point, she ceased to become pregnant to give birth. The first 3 names are all about her husband, about how her husband does not love her, about how hopefully this will make him love her. The 4th time, there is no mention of Yaakov, of her husband. Why has she made her peace with it? Has she given up? But what does she do? She thanks Hashem. She only focuses on the gift, on the blessing of the child, of what Hashem has given her. The greatness of Leah was that she bore with dignity this lifelong challenge of being second fiddle to Rachel, of being the wife that was not chosen. And that could have made her incredibly sad and depressed. That could have made her jaded. That could have prevented her from enjoying anything in life. That could have made her angry at Hashem. But as much as she bore that sadness, she bore with dignity, and she was still able to see goodness. When the 4th son came, and Yaakov still did not change, and she was still second to Rachel, but she still was sincerely filled with joy. She could focus on the good, on the blessing, and she thanked Hashem. The uniqueness of Leah's Hodav, her thanksgiving, what was so special was that in the giving of the birth, which she could have seen as something negative, she turned it into something positive, and she saw the good in it, and she saw the blessings in it, and she thanked Hashem, and she thanked Hashem publicly by giving the name to Yehuda so everyone would call him by that name. That is incredibly challenging, to see the good when there is bad, and to really be thankful when we could have a different outlook in life. This Thanksgiving, it is a Thanksgiving where we will not have everything around us which normally arouses in us feelings of thanksgiving, but still let us try to walk in the footsteps of Leah and be something of her way of thanking Hashem. Let's try to focus on the good, try to have a positive outlook. Even though there are challenges, there are things that make us sad, let us bear it with dignity, and let us find something to truly, sincerely thank Hashem, to declare, Hapa'am Odes Hashem. At this time, I thank Hashem.